بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم أما بعد. In this lesson we're going to begin الدرس السادس عشر, the 16th lesson from Medina book 3. The objective here in this lesson is to explain the main concepts that's taught, and then inshallah next lesson we're going to read through the passage looking out for these rules being applied. So the fi'l, the verb, can be categorized in many ways. One of the categorizations is in terms of عدد الحروف, the number of letters it consists of. In terms of how many letters are found in any given verb in the Arabic language, we can categorize verbs into ثلاثي, if it consists of 3 letters, رباعي, if it consists of 4 letters, خماسي, if it consists of 5 letters, سداسي, if it consists of 6 letters. So the minimum is 3 and the maximum is 6. There is no verb that's more than 6 letters, and there is no verb that's less than 2 letters unless there's some sort of change. A letter has been dropped because of a rule. Otherwise, the origin is that it doesn't go less than 3 and it doesn't go more than 6. طيب. The 3-lettered verbs, we should already be familiar with them. There's 3 scales, 3 awzan. فعل, فعل, فعل. Exactly the same letters. The only difference is the ayn kalima has a fatha, or you can have a kasra, or you can have a dhamma. If you remember, we spoke about these ones in more detail. And we said fa'ala, if you was to reflect over the mudari', you can derive 3 mudari' from fa'ala. You have fa'ala, but you can get 3 different mudari' where the ayn kalima has different letters or different harakat. Fa'ala, يفعل, فعل, يفعل, فعل, يفعل. So example of فعل, يفعل would be نصر, ينصر. Example of فعل, يفعل would be فتح, يفتح. Example of فعل, يفعل would be ضرب, يضرب. So from فعل we can have 3 مضارع variants. With فعل we have 2 variants. فعل, يفعل, فعل, يفعل. Example فعل يفعل is علم يعلم. Example فعل يفعل حسب يحسب. So 2 variants. And with فعل we only have 1 مضارع, and that is where it comes with a dhamma, يفعل. فعل يفعل, like كرم يكرم. So all in all, we've said there's 3 scales. That's if you're looking at the madi, the past tense verbs alone, there's 3. But if you was to combine it with the possible variants that you can get, there's going to be sittatu abwab, 6 scales in total for the thulathi. If you include the madi and its mudari' variants, in total there will be 6. This has 3, this has 2, this has 1. So there's 6 scales in total. And these scales, if you look into the books of sarf, they refer to them as abwab. So 6 groupings. Okay, that's thulathi. Then we have ruba'i. What did you say ruba'i is? Ruba'i is a verb that consists of 4 letters. The verbs that consist of 4 letters, they come in 4 scales. There's 4 different scales in the Arabic language. These are the 4 different scales that you can find a 4-lettered verb coming under. Either af'ala, like akhraja, aslama, and so on. Fa'ala, like nasara, qatala. Fa'ala, like kabbara, hayya'a, and so on. Fa'lala, like zalzala, dahraja, and so on. So there's 4 scales. These 4 scales, a student would memorize it. So ruba'i has 4 different scales. So you'd memorize these 4 the same way you'd memorize fa'ala, fa'ila, fa'ula, the same way you memorize these, and the mudari' variants, the same way you'd memorize these. There's 4. Lesson 16 is going to focus on this one, fa'ala, the one with the ayn that has a shadda. That's what we're going to be learning. We're going to be learning the madi, the mudari', the masdar, the ism al-fa'al, the ism al-maf'ul of fa'ala. That's what they're going to concentrate on. But I wanted to show you the mind map and where fa'ala falls in this mind map so that you have the full picture. So we have ruba'i and there's 4 different scales. Af'ala, fa'ala, fa'ala, fa'lala. Okay. Then khumasi. With khumasi we have 6 different scales. in fa'ala, like in talaqa. Second, ifta'ala, irtabata. Third one, if'alla, like ihmarra. Fourth one, tafa'ala, like takallama. Fifth one, tafa'ala, taqatala. Sixth one, tafa'lala, tadahraja. So the 5-lettered verbs, the khumasi ones, there's 6 scales in total. If ever you come across a 5-lettered verb in the Arabic language, it's going to fall into one of these 6 scales. And then we have sudasi, the 6-lettered verbs. 6-lettered verbs are also going to come in 6 different scales. These are the 6 different scales, although the first one is the one that's commonly used. Some of these are not commonly used from these different ones. But with the sudasi, this is the one that's commonly used. Perhaps they will only give you this one in some books, and they would ignore these ones because they're hardly used. But if you have all of them and you know all of them, you memorize all of them, then it's better for you. So istaf'ala is the first one, like istaqbala. Second one, if'al, like ikhdar. Third one, if'aw'ala, i'shawshaba. Fourth one, if'awwala, like ijlawwada. Fifth one, if'anlala, like ihranjama. Sixth one is if'alalla, like iqsha'arra and itma'anna. So there's 6 scales. Anytime you come across a 6-lettered verb, it's going to come on one of these 6 scales. Hopefully that's understood. So this is a categorization of the verbs, the Arabic verb, in terms of how many letters it consists of. If you was to categorize it in this manner, you have 4 categories: thulathi, ruba'i, khumasi, sudasi, and under each one we have different scales. This one has 3 if you're only looking at the madi, but if you're looking at with the madi and the mudari, you have 6 scales. This one has 4 scales. This one has 6 scales. This one has 6 scales. You memorize it. This is something that you memorize, and over time, inshallah, it becomes easier. The second categorization we're going to speak about is the fi'l in terms of the letters being or root letters or additional letters. So this is a categorization of the verb by looking at the letters which make up this verb. Is this letter a root letter or is it an additional letter? Is it a letter that's foundational, or and they refer to it as a radical, or is it a letter that's added to modify the meaning? In this categorization, we can categorize the verbs into 2. Mujarrad, mazid. I believe we've mentioned this categorization before, but we're going to mention a bit more detail, inshallah. So mujarrad or mazid. What's mujarrad? Mujarrad is where all of the letters in the verb are root letters. If you take one of those letters off, the meaning is completely lost. That verb no longer exists. So the letters that are making up that verb are all root letters, foundational pillars in that word. Whereas mazid, there is foundational letters. There's always going to be foundational letters, but on top of the foundational letters, there's additional letters. Those additional letters are added to modify the meaning, give extra meaning. But if you was to remove them, the base meaning, the default meaning would still be there. The default meaning would still be there. طيب. So in terms of mujarrad, the one that's root letters, this one is subdivided into 2. There's thulathi mujarrad and there's ruba'i mujarrad. What's thulathi mujarrad? Thulathi mujarrad is basically telling us that the verb consists of 3 letters, and each one of these 3 letters is root, is mujarrad, and it's a root letter. 3 letters, and all 3 letters are root. Why did I write 3 here? 3 here because that's the scales. We have fa'ala, fa'ila, fa'ula. So there's 3 scales of thulathi mujarrad. If you're only looking at the madi, if you're looking at mudari, you can write 6. And considering the different forms of the mudari, you could write 6. But I've just wrote 3. Fa'ala, fa'ila, fa'ula. Ruba'i. What's ruba'i? Mujarrad. Ruba'i mujarrad is a verb that consists of 4 letters. And each one of these 4 letters is a root letter. It's a root letter. How many scales of ruba'i mujarrad do we have? We only have 1. And that is fa'lala here. That's why I highlighted it in yellow. So fa'ala, fa'ila, fa'ula, and fa'lala. These 3 are here, and this one is here. So there's only 1 mujarrad ruba'i. Is there mujarrad khumasi, mujarrad sudasi? No. Once you get to khumasi, sudasi, there's going to be additions. You can't have a verb that's made up of 5 letters and every single letter from that 5 is a root letter. That's not possible. Nor is it possible to have 6. So it's only thulathi, ruba'i. Those are the only 2 that come under mujarrad, where each one of the letters is a root letter. Okay, hopefully that's understood. Then we move on to the mazid. The mazid. What's mazid? Mazid is where we have root letters, but on top of it we have additional letters. Why are these additional letters added? To modify the meaning, give us extra meaning. So for example, salima. Salima, a person is safe. He's safe. If we change it and add an extra lam and say sallama. Sallama is he is making others safe. He's granting safety to others. Salama. Salama is now 2 people, they're making peace. They don't want to fight no more. Salama. Aslama, a person who's surrendered or he's accepted Islam. Istaslama is the person who has submitted and surrendered himself. So different meanings, but the root letters are sin, lam, mim. If sin, lam, mim are omitted from these different words, then if any of these letters, sin, lam, mim, are omitted, then the meaning is going to be lost. But the additional letters, if we have them, it modifies the meaning, but if we don't have them, then the meaning is still there, but the modified meaning is going to be lost. So what's mazid? Once again, mazid is additional. Additional to what? Additional to the root letters. So we're either going to be adding to thulathi or we're going to be adding to rubai. Hence mazid is 2 types. Just like mujarrad, we said mujarrad is 2 types, mazid is also 2 types. So we have mazid thulathi. What does mazid thulathi mean? We have 3 root letters, and added onto it, we're going to have 1 letter added to it, 2 letters added to it, or 3 letters added to it. That's why we have mazid thulathi biharf. So thulathi, yani mujarrad, but we have added onto it mazid biharf, additional letter, 1 additional letter, 2 additional letters, or 3 additional letters. Because if we start from 3 and we add 1, we get 4. If we add 2, we get 5. If we add 3, we get 6. And that's the max, right? We said 6 is the maximum that it goes up to. Or we could start from 4, rubai, right? We start from 4 and we add harf, it becomes 5. It becomes khumasi. Or we add 2 and it becomes sudasi. And that's the maximum that the verb goes up to, maximum number of letters. Okay. In terms of adding harf, 1 harf to the thulathi, if we added an extra harf, we have 3 scales. So this takes us back to here. So we said rubai. Look, rubai, we said there's 4 scales in total. There's 4 scales in total. But here under mazid thulathi, I've only written 3. Why have I only written 3? Because these 3, the first 3, are mazid. They have an additional letter onto it. Not all 4 letters are root letters. Not all 4 letters are root letters. There's one which is additional. So in af'ala, fa, ayn, lam is root. The additional letter is hamza. In fa'ala, the alif is additional. The rest are root. In fa'ala, which is the one that we're going to be concentrating on, lesson 16, one of the ayns is additional. So additional hamza, additional alif, additional ayn. Whereas with the fa'lala, there's no additions. That's why I didn't mention it here. Instead, I mentioned it here. Mujarrad, rubai, all letters are root. Fa'lala is the scale. I wrote 1. Here, mazid, thulathi, we have 3 letters added onto it, 1 extra letter, 3 scales. So if you look at rubai, if you look at this categorization does not differentiate between whether the letter is original or additional. There's no distinction. All we're doing is counting how many letters make up the verb. 4 letters, okay, we put it here. 3 letters, we put it here. 5 letters, we put it here. 6 letters, we put it here. Regardless of whether the letter is additional or root. Whereas here, this is looking at which letters are root, which letters are additional. So if we're categorizing the verbs, in this categorization, we see we have split between the rubai, fa'lala, and we split between af'ala, fa'ala, and fa'ala, because we have considered which one is root letters and which one is not root letter. So thulathi, additional, harf, we have 3 scales. Thulathi, once again, we're adding 2 extra letters. If we're adding 2 extra letters, it's going to be khumasi, right? It's going to come here. I've wrote 5 scales. 5 scales. Minus this one that has a star, the one that has a star, we're minusing the one that has a star. So 5. The first 5 are thulathi. They are taken from the thulathi, but we've added 2 extra letters. So here we've added, in fa'ala, we've added 2 extra letters. What are the additional letters? The hamza and the noon. The hamza and the noon are 2 additional letters that we've added to give us thulathi mazid biharfain. So this is the 3 root lettered verb with 2 additional letters. In fa'ala, hamza and noon. In ifta'ala, it's the hamza and the ta. In if'alla, it's the hamza and one of the lams. In tafa'ala, is the ta and one of the ains. In tafa'ala, is the ta and one of it's the ta and the alif. Tafa'ala. So these ones have 2 additional letters. طيب. Then we have mazid thulathi بثلاثة أحرف with 3 additional letters. So if we're adding onto 3, that's going to give us 6. So we're looking here, it's going to be sudasi. And how many? 4. 4 scales. So 4 scales, the first 4 scales. So the first 4 scales here are taken from thulathi, but with 3 added letters. So 3 are root and 3 are additional letters. So in istaf'ala, the hamza, the sin and the ta are additional. In if'ala, the hamza, the alif and one of the lams additional. In if'aw'ala, we have the hamza, the ain and the waw. One of the ains, either this ain or this ain, is additional. So hamza, one of the ains and the waw additional. In if'awwala, we have the hamza and the 2 waws. The 2 waws are additional. طيب. And then these 2, and then this one we haven't spoken about it yet, because it's going to come on this side. But we want to make sure we have understood what mazid means. What's mazid? Mazid is additional letters. There's mazid thulathi, mazid rubai. We've spoken about mazid thulathi. We're saying we're starting from 3 and we're adding 1. We're starting from 3, we're adding 2. We're starting from 3, we're adding 3 additional letters. And those are the scales that which I've explained up there. Sometimes we can start from rubai. We start from 4 root letters and then we add 1. It gives us 5. We add 2, it gives us 6 letters. So if we add 1, it becomes khumasi. The only khumasi that's taken from 4 root letters with 1 additional letter is this one, tafa'lala. Tafa'lala. Where is the additional letter? The ta. It's actually taken from fa'lala. Look, fa'lala. What's the difference? The ta is the only difference. So this is ruba'i mazid biharf. Ruba'i with an additional letter, 1 letter. So there's only 1 scale. Then there's ruba'i with 2 additional letters. If we add 2 additional letters, it becomes sudasi, right? The only sudasi, ruba'i, mazid biharfain is these 2. If'an lala. In if'an lala, there's 2 additional letters. The additional letters is hamza and the noon. Hamza and noon are additional. In if'alalla, we have the hamza and one of the lams. One of the lams here. Hamza, one of the lams. Those are additional letters. طيب. So we've understood now the difference between mujarrad and mazid. Mujarrad, all letters making up this verb are root letters. Mazid, not all of the root of the letters are root letters. Rather, there's root and there's additional. Hopefully that's understood. The next thing that we need to explain is, we said we're going to be focusing, lesson 16 focuses on this one, right? This is the one that we're going to be focusing on. Fa'ala. So with fa'ala, is very, very easy. In fact, with all of the ones that are above thulathi, ruba'i, khumasi, sudasi, they have a set pattern. They have a standard pattern. All of these have a standard pattern. They all have a standard pattern. What do I mean by standard pattern? Well, with these ones, we don't know what the madi is, right? Of a verb until we go to the dictionary and we're taught and we're told it's like, if I was to give you dad, ra and ba, do I say dariba, daraba, daruba? We don't know. There's no rule to determine what scale it comes on. Fa'ala, fa'ila, or fa'ula. It's something that you have to memorize. Likewise, with the mudari', do you know what the mudari' is going to be? There's no rule to determine it. The only rule here is this one, for example. This one, you know, fa'ula, you only have one other option, which is yaf'ulu. So hence, if you know that it's fa'ula, it's going to be yaf'ulu. But with these ones, you don't really know. You don't really know. With fa'ila, actually, you kind of know it's on, it has a fatha. That's in most of the cases going to come with a fatha. There's only a few that comes with the yaf'ilu. But with this one here, do you know if it's fa'ala yaf'alu, fa'ala yaf'ulu, fa'ala yaf'ilu? There's no rule. The point I'm trying to get to is there's no rule to determine the mudari' for these ones. There's also no rule to determine the masdar, the verb or noun. We don't know. So, for example, nasara, nasrun, alima, ilmun, fi'lun, fa'lun, fa'alatun. It changes and there's no rule to determine it. Whereas with these ones, it's set. Once you know what the madi is, the mudari' is set. You just memorize what the mudari' is. The ismul fa'il, we already know the ismul fa'il for all of them. We already know the ismul maf'ul for all of them. We already know the ismul zaman, ismul makan for all of them. The masadir, the masdars, you just have to memorize it. And the set is done. Everything is set for these ones. There's rules. So we said we're going to be focusing on fa'ala. So we've given the madi. The madi is fa'ala. In terms of the mudari', what we start with is huruf al-mudara, right? Hamza, nun, ya, or ta. One of those letters, we have to start with that in order to construct the mudari'. So let's just use the ya. Okay, so we have fa'ala, we add the ya. Okay, one rule that we need to learn, I'm sure we've already mentioned this previously, is that with the ruba'i, the four-lettered verbs, when you make it mudari', the harful mudara' is always going to take a dhamma. So af'ala yuf'ilu, fa'ala yufa'ilu, fa'ala yufa'ilu, fa'lala yufa'lilu. Whereas all with the other ones, the thulathi, khumasi, sudasi, is always going to take a fatha. إن فعل ينفعل افتعل يفتعل افعل يفعل تفعل يتفعل استفعل يستفعل افعل يفعل افعل يفعل يخرج يذهب يفعل يفعل يفعل. All of the حروف المضارع for thulathi, khumasi, sudasi take a fatha. The only time it takes a dhamma is when it's rubai. These four scales, the harf al-mudara' takes a dhamma. So we're going to say you, u, nu, tu. Okay, so fa'ala yufa'ilu. Then the fa is going to be taking a fatha. The ayn is going to take a shadda with a kasra and the dhamma. Yufa'ilu. That's the scale. So if we was to practice hayya'a, yuhayyi'u, yufa'ilu, kabbara, yukabbiru, qattala, yuqattilu, shajjara, yushajjiru, wazza'a, yuwazzi'u, rattaba, yurattibu. It doesn't change. Exactly the same. Okay. In terms of the masdar, what's the masdar? The masdar is this. You have to memorize this. Taf'ilun. Taf'ilun. That's the masdar. Kabbara, takbirun. That's the masdar. Wazza'a, tawzi'un. Rattaba, tartibun. So that's the masdar. It doesn't change. But you need to bear in mind that if the fi'l is naqis, fa'ala, and it's naqis, what does naqis mean? Naqis means the lamul kalima is a harf illa. Like samma, for example, samma. That's a harf illa, right? Samma. So if it's naqis or it's mahmuz al-lam. What's mahmuz al-lam? So we have fa, ayn, lam. Lam is a hamza, like hayya'a. So, hayya'a, mahmuz al-lam. In these two cases, instead of coming on taf'il, it comes on taf'ila. Only in these two cases. Otherwise, it's always going to be taf'il. The only two exceptions is if it's naqis and it's mahmuz al-lam. Instead of saying taf'il, we say taf'ila. So, samma, we say tasmiyatun. Tasmiyah. Hayya'a, we say tahyi'ah. Tahyi'ah. Otherwise, it's always going to come on taf'il. So that's the masdar. Masdar, you're dealing with these two. All cases is taf'il except if it's these two exceptions. Okay, Ismul Fa'il and Ismul Maf'ul, we mentioned a general rule that we covered before. That general rule, we said the Ismul Fa'il Maf'ul comes on the same scale as the Fi'l Mudari'. So this is the Fi'l Mudari'. See the Fi'l Mudari'? What do? We replace the Harful Mudara' with a meme. The Harful Mudara' is replaced with a meme madmuma. It already has a dhamma, so, and then everything else remains the same. So mufa, ayn, and then this ism, right? It's a ism. So here it takes a tanween. The last letter takes a tanween. It could be ilun, lin, lan, depending on the sentence. But it takes a tanween because it's ism. The difference between ismul fa'il and ismul maf'ul is the second last letter. The second last letter here is the ayn. If it takes a kasra, is ismul fa'il. If it takes a fatha, ismul maf'ul. That's the only difference. We mentioned this already. How to construct the ismul fa'il and ismul maf'ul for the ruba'i and the khumas and the sudasi is exactly the same. You put it on the scale of the mudari', change the harf al-mudara' for a meme with a dhamma, and then the second last letter takes a kasra if it's ismul fa'il, or it takes a dhamma if it's ismul maf'ul. So for example, let's go here. Istaf'ala. I will tell you the mudari' is yastaf'ilu. Yastaf'ilu. So I changed the ya for a meme with a dhamma. Mustaf'ilun is ismul fa'il. Mustaf'alun is ismul maf'ul. Okay, in fa'ala. Munfa'ilun ismul fa'il. Munfa'alun is ismul maf'ul. طيب. So here we're saying مفعل مكبر اسم الفاعل مكبر is اسم المفعول. Okay. Once we know what the ism al-maf'ul is, the one that ends with a fatha, that's the same scale we're going to use for ism al-zaman and ism al-makan. For all of these ones, rubai, khumasi, sudasi, the ism al-maf'ul does more than one function. It's ism al-maf'ul and ism al-zaman and ism al-makan at the same time. All of those three things. Whereas with this one, we said we have to put it on maf'ilun or maf'alun, right? Masjidun, masjidun or mal'abun, for example. Masjidun mal'abun. Maf'ilun maf'alun. But with these ones, we have to put it on the ismul maf'ul. The same scale, ismul maf'ul is going to be the same scale that's used for creating the ismul zaman, ismul makan. So this is basically the lesson. The lesson that we're going to be studying, lesson 16. These are the main rules. If you've understood this, alhamdulillah. You're going to understand it even more once we read through the passage and we go over the homework. Barakallahu fikum. Subhanakallah wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik.